Hi all. I had an interesting game last night playing against Watford 2 away against Nelson. So I was playing black and I played d6, bit of a surprise weapon, and he played c4, I played e5. So originally I had prepared this as a sort of in a British Championship once to avoid someone who I thought would go into my King's Engine. Also, I'd realised that Tony Miles, late Tony Miles, played it with some success, and also Adams had generally been playing d6 and bishop g4 sometimes as a surprise weapon. I think that's called the Wade variation. Rest in peace, Bob Wade. But also Steve Swanson of Hartford Chess Club has played this, and I was white once against him and got crushed. So I was kind of impressed because taking and queen takes, I think black's going to be fine in this kind of variation. It's not as bad as it seems because you get the c5 square, the king can go to c7, and you can later play for, you know, a5, that sort of thing, knight a6 to c5. So it's not that bad, and he avoids that though. Perhaps knight f3 is better than playing d5, because you'll find another annotated video annotated game where I talk about the knight on c5, and it's that British Championship game I prepared this system for, if you want to sort of learn about the system more. So black's, I think, doing fine here already, but maybe this next move is a bit dubious if I don't follow up, especially against this gambit that white now plays with e4. I guess I shouldn't take here. I think I was being overly provocative, as if to say, you know, there's factors in the position that, you know, if you don't get a fantastic knight on e4, then I'll have some counterplay, or if you do, then there's other factors. But really, I don't think there is. I think this is a bit too risky to take. Maybe knight f6 is better, because I think he could have rounded this pawn up with advantage, especially after this bishop g4. I think he could have played like h3 and, well, let's play this out, h3. And now bishop g2 and then knight g3, and I think white's going to be better once he recollects his pawn. So that would be like a classic King's Engine advantage, you know, to get a fantastic knight on e4. But what he did do here was interesting. Queen c2. It potentially gave me some dynamics later with c6, trying to get the rook later to c8 rapidly before actually continuing development. That became a priority because the queen's, you know, on that c file. So knight d7. Knight d7 not only prepares rook c8, but potentially there's knight c5 to d3 as a threat, or giving back the pawn to get the light square bishop. So knight g3, I play knight c5 now, and it's an interesting opening position. Knight c takes e4 was played, and now I play c6. So I'm carrying on that plan. You know, maybe I'm going to play rook c8 and c takes. I'm inviting knight c5 because I don't have to take with a pawn. I'm not sure about this next move by white. He did take on c5. Maybe he should just play a quiet move like bishop e3. So he took on c5, allowing me to play the check, this check, to regain that knight. So he's lost a bit of his, you know, e4 control. Queen takes c5, and now he plays a move very quickly, b4, which I'm not really sure about. It gains a bit of space. I suppose it's inviting the black queen to be trapped. If queen d4, then maybe he just plays like rook c1, because that queen was attacking the rook. And then if cd, then bishop e3. So obviously I don't want to go into the white position quite yet. So I go backwards, queen b6. But he's still, you know, weakened himself a little bit on this diagonal. And I use that to cheekily, very cheekily, grab the pawn now. After c takes, I play queen d4. I know it's cheeky stuff because the king's still in the centre. Am I going to be slaughtered? That was the question going through my mind, really. But I was more in the mood to play controversially after that last draw I had against that 12-year-old junior. So I wanted to try and see if I can still gain a few rating points this season. If I have to take risks to do that, then I thought I would. And although this is the league with adjudications of Germans, I had a new strategy for the heart time control, which is basically to move as quickly as possible, so that when we reach move 35, the opponent would still maybe have to play another 7 moves or more, because the session ends at 10:30, so it can't be adjudicated before 10:30. So I was playing rather quickly all these moves, and provocatively at the same time. So rook c1, big question, how do I take on d5? The thing is, if I take with the knight, I think, just bishop c4, and if the knight moves back, I don't think this is as good as the game, because in the game I managed to cheekily get another pawn. Here, my king's in the centre, and it's looking a bit dangerous. If bishop d7, there's queen e6s, on that pin. So if I have to move my king here, I think, white can just castle here actually and get his other resources out, this rook. Now, in this continuation of what I played, I actually took with the queen. So, attacking g2. So if he's going to move this bishop, he's going to lose g2. If he loses g2, it's not just the pawn at stake, it's being able to castle and bring this rook in. And also the rook and knight seem to be a bit tied down in this continuation now. So bishop c4, queen takes g2. So inviting 2 optional checks, one on f7 or one on b5. He chooses the one on b5. I move my king to d8. I don't want to get involved in this queen e6 stuff with bishop d7, or I don't want to retreat my knight. The knight could be useful one day for knight e4 to threaten knight takes g3 and queen takes h1. So I just play king d8. The king's also potentially useful for rook c8, especially if that bishop wasn't there, to support c8. So queen f7, an attractive invasory move, but one which, if it's beaten off, then we're following the Steinitz rule that, you should only attack if you have an advantage. And if you don't have an advantage in an attack, then sometimes that attack can be repulsed. It's a Steinitzian law. And the attacker will incur a disadvantage, from less coordination. So this is Steinitzian laws of chess. But, sorry, calling them laws is actually a bit cheeky. They're not laws, they're generalizations. Sometimes this attack would work. It really depends on the tactics. It's hard to say superficially, sometimes what the advantages are. And I thought actually at the time, bishop e7, maybe this move is blown away by rook c7. I actually thought this last night. But then checking with engines, this isn't so bad. This position isn't so bad, apparently. I play, in fact, what seems to be a more accurate move, just rook c8 to defend that queen c7 mating threat. So I'm trying to just get rid of the attacking resources. So rook takes c8, bishop takes c8, and then he plays bishop g5. So he's threatening already just queen e8, because that knight's now pinned. Or other stuff, bishop takes f6, takes, and taking my rook. So I've got a logical positional sack now, which unravels my position, which is now bishop e7. So the attacking piece is also becoming a tempo gain resource for me. If I could play rook f8, then move the knight somewhere to attack f2. And he doesn't really want to take here, because, I can get my pieces out like this, and his attacks he really has incurred a disadvantage in this kind of position. Maybe I can just play h6 here now, and get the dark squared bishop. Otherwise, he will face knight g4. So he wanted to avoid this kind of continuation. So actually, he just played after bishop e7. He retreated his queen. So the attacker, as Steinitz would say, has got a bit of a disadvantage from this attack. It was not a well-founded attack in theory. Now, in practice, you still have to play very accurate moves to beat the opponent. And here, I think I did find a good move again, which invited some simplification. And also, I really don't want, things like bishop f1 maybe to evict the queen, because the queen's kind of being nice and annoying there. And if it moves, then, well, basically, I like the queen there because I like the idea of knight e4 takes g3 to threaten queen takes h1. So to stop bishop f1 and that sort of thing, I played knight e4. It's got immediate threats now. Queen takes f2, knight takes g3. So I'm immediately asking white to do something about f2. First he takes on e7, and you'll notice that my king is looking a bit safer now after king takes. There's only one sort of issue which concerned me after rook f1, this queen e3 to g5 stuff. And I extinguished that threat by doing this seemingly silly move to open up the rook on the f-file and fix the pawn structure. I played seemingly silly knight takes g3. But it means the e4 square is now vacated, so I can play this check, so I can stop this queen e3 stuff. He moves his king, and now I can simply stop the f7 threat with bishop e6. So this gives my rook now c8 and f8. And so I'm just 2 pawns up here now, with white not having much compensation.